Welcome to the Build Better Blueprint, the podcast where we discuss the foundations of real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Join Christian Cardamone as he shares insights, strategies, and stories that will empower you to level up your business, your lifestyle, and your impact. Let's build a better blueprint for success, starting now.
Hey, this is Christian Cardamone. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Build Better Blueprint. Today I've got an awesome guest, Teddy. Teddy is a dynamic entrepreneur and seasoned investor who runs a growing multifamily investment firm, managing over 600 units across multiple markets. As the co-founder of 2 successful dispensaries and a cultivation site, he brings a unique blend of expertise in real estate and business development. Specializing in raising capital and fostering strong investor relationships, Teddy applies his deep market knowledge to excel in both residential and commercial real estate. Outside of work, he's an adventurer at heart, an avid pilot, skydiver, rock climber, surfer, and skier. His diverse real estate portfolio spans Iowa, Colorado, and Texas, reflecting his commitment to growth within the industry. Holy shit, man.
It's a mouthful.
You're a stud. This is the coolest bio I've read, so I'm so stoked to talk to you today, Teddy. And Teddy Mohlman, right? Is that how you pronounce your last name?
That's it. You didn't butcher it. Thanks for that.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, Teddy Mohlman. So, first of all, that's the coolest bio I've read. I can relate to a lot of that stuff, but you're probably you're an elevated version of me with a few more things that I don't really, frankly, have the balls to do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, a little bit about some of these awesome hobbies and your journey into real estate investing, the greatest industry in the world?
Originally born and raised in Miami, Florida. So kind of had that lifestyle for my younger days, which was fun. Bounced around for school and work in my younger days, and now I'm boots on the ground here is Denver, Colorado. So that's home for me. Always thought I was going to be close to the ocean personally my whole life, but got a glimpse of the mountains, and now I don't think I can go back. So it's been a fun place. Kind of again bounced around a little bit for work and for fun. Eventually landed back in Miami to had a catering business, and I was a private chef for some years in Miami, and with that, I was able to, of course, do dinners for high net worth individuals, some beautiful homes, $30-40 million homes in Miami. And whenever I was able to connect with some of these owners, I was able to kind of ask them, where they came from, what they did, what their workforce was. And a lot of the industries eventually fell back onto real estate, right? So a lot of this success kind of was dropping some crumbs of clues, and I knew eventually kind of wanted to get into real estate. At the time, I kind of had something going, and generally speaking, my grandfather had some real estate holdings, a successful shoe business of which that flow went into real estate. That kind of trickled down to my mom over time. Obviously, she's doing well for herself now, specifically with passive income, and that always kind of trickled down to me. So kind of bounced around with work a little bit, decided to eventually kind of fall into the real estate world. So about 7.5 years ago, decided to take the plunge in real estate. Started single family, smaller, fix and flip model. Eventually kind of grew into larger and larger deals. And as I was doing that, I was kind of advertising it on social media and kind of my wins and losses. And I had some people just kind of jump in and say, hey, I want to, I know real estate's a great, one of the best investment vehicles. I want to jump in, but I don't have the time or expertise. So was able to kind of open that up to friends and family. Fortunately, that was a success. And as we continued to grow, we just went to smaller multi, larger multi, and now, like you stated, we have about 600 units plus or minus in multiple more markets. Very similar to the syndication model. So that's kind of our bread and butter.
Okay, that's amazing. That's so cool. So your journey, like many, starts with single family, and then kind of the genesis of that process of investors going up the mountaintop, it gets into small multifamily, then mid to the large multi, and then at that certain point, you run out of money, so then you've got to start, or people want to follow your journey because they see you're doing well, want to participate, and that's when you start really pooling a lot of money and making some big moves, right?
For sure.
So Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it takes the same amount of money or time to underwrite 100 units than it does to do 10, right? You just need to have your due diligence in check and just have more money. So at the end of the day, just capital is the most important thing.
Yeah. So tell me the difference between a syndication and then your model, because I'm intrigued by that, because I feel like I'm at that precipice of, do I start raising capital? I've got all my own money invested in my deals now, but that's where you're at is the next level, man. So if in order for me to level up, I need to to probably choose a path. So it's unique that you have not gone the traditional syndication model. Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, I didn't start the traditional syndication model. Initially, it was kind of like friends and family round and referrals. As we continue to scale, we did eventually kind of fall into that syndication model, right? You know, the most important thing is that people just need to recognize, like, you're going to eventually tap out of your friends and family, especially if you want to continue to grow. If you want to do $1 to $2 million deals every other quarter, then maybe that you might get away with that. But if you want to scale and look into the bigger opportunities out there, syndication is going to be the way to go. I'm not an attorney, but there's two ways to classify it. You know, you have accredited investor or non-accredited investor syndication model, it's B or C. And a lot of people kind of start off with their friends and family round, close that off, and then eventually open up to a C. And then of which that gives them the opportunity to, go on social media or blast it through marketing or whatever, because you're specifically tailored that investment or that private placement to accredited investors, right? So we did kind of start off that way, where we would open the round for friends and family and try to get referrals in even when we didn't have deals, because that's the most important thing, is especially if they're not accredited, but they do have liquidity. You want to make sure you have those conversations earlier on, because once you start making those calls when you have a deal, you're kind of wasting time, because you need to initially have that conversation to be able to satisfy, the SEC rules and regs, to be able to have that quote unquote existing relationship with them, right? So I always tell people, like, you're always be raising, even when you're not, always go out and just chat about what you do. And especially if it's someone that may be a $50,000 to $200,000 check writer, if they are newer into the space, they are most likely not going to invest in your first deal. So what I typically like to say to people that I either coach or mentor or just share experience with is get that first conversation out of the way early on, because then when the actual deal comes, you've already had that initial conversation. They see you're doing more deals and they've already had that initial chat with you. They're comfortable with you going on round two. I would say it's typically less common for a newer investor to fund on the first chat. Usually it's when you have that second deal is when they feel like they're missed out, especially if you broadcast the wins on social media, or you send out kind of like case studies within your CRM. They're going to be like, wow, I remember chatting about that deal. It seems like it's going great. I feel like I'm missing out. And then boom, the next one hits and they're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, that's great. And it's a great point too, because it's a relationship game, just like every other element of all business, frankly. But having that discussion early and then just maintaining that over a period of time is great, because then you're not also like a salesman trying to sell them something just to fund your deal, because people can smell that on you at a certain point when you're desperate for money. So if it's organic, and then even if they do step aside, it's almost like the takeaway close, right? They see that you're starting to perform, and then they have a little FOMO, and they're like, well, shit, man, Teddy looks like he's doing awesome on this deal.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had sacked up and joined that. So what's your ideal target for like dollar amount? Is it that 50 to 100 or 100 to 200 for an investment?
Yeah, it's a great question. Depending on the deal size, kind of way we structure it, probably anything sub $3 million, $4 million, we'll probably keep like those $50,000 tranches just to make it, open for some people. Anything above that, we kind of might have like a first round of friends and family. We'll open it up to that. But as you may know, I think SEC only allows 25 non-accredited investors. So quote me on that. So once you do hit that number, then you can only do an accredited, right? So we'll typically do, even if it's a larger deal, maybe smaller tranches available for friends and family round. And then once we kind of satisfy that bucket, we'll convert to a 506C, and then we'll do, again, anything north of $3-4 million. We'll typically do like $150,000 or $250,000 raises. Yeah,
okay, awesome.
We feel like it's easier that way. Investor relations, in our opinion. That being said, though, one of the main reasons why I started my firm was to be able to give everyone the opportunity to invest in real estate, even if they did not have the time and the money, or the expertise, right? So although I want to make sure that we can obviously not have 1,000 investors in one deal and just kind of a headache with investor relations, I still want to open up that bucket for someone that, again, they have $50,000 to invest, but they don't want to send down on a $500,000 house to get a single family that's going to net them, 0.01%, cash on cash, and they don't want to have the time to manage it. So I want to be able to open that up to at least help build that wealth for someone that doesn't have that time or the experience.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I think that's really what you're doing is exceptional, because a lot of these big like funds and people who are doing these big real estate moves, the average bear can't get into it, doesn't understand it, doesn't have the stomach for it, doesn't have the money, frankly, to do it, or even know where to go. So the fact that you make it accessible and not to the everyman, because you still have to be, fairly astute to have that kind of money to set aside for something like that. But it's really cool to let more people participate under your kind of tutelage. So tell us like kind of what your specialty is and what you're known for. Is that the size of the deals that you guys are doing, and what's the state of your kind of portfolio right now?
Yeah, I'd say our bread and butter, our thesis is value add. And that could be in a combination for listeners. I mean, anything from a renovation, facelift, cosmetically speaking. That can just be mismanagement or bad operators in place that obviously the property is just not performing the way it should. I mean, there's such simple things, especially when you go to larger apartments, just as simple as bulk internet, right? I mean, all you got to do is include bulk internet in the property. The company would charge you $30 at cost. You charge a tenant at 60. You make the spread of 30, and you look at that. I think our last deal was 360 units as a portfolio sale of 270 plus 90, and I think per year we should be making about $115,000 in clean NOI just by implementing bulk internet, right? So you divide that by a 7% cap rate. I mean, the valuation just increases tremendously, right? So there's the power of commercial real estate's there. So to kind of answer the question, that's kind of our bread and butter is value add. A majority of our properties are going to be that C-class workforce housing, portfolio. We would like to get into maybe like a little bit more of a B, but it's harder for us to make the numbers work given the syndication model and the splits. And we're just kind of known for being the value add guys. We're fortunate in at least the core market that we're in, which is in Des Moines. We have economies of scale. So we have construction house. We have about 9 guys that are now, fully integrated within the business. So we're known to get stuff done timely. And just given that we have so much properties in that one space, it just helps us out tremendously, which is being creative and being able to get a little tighter on our underwriting, just given that we have control on our overall cost and timeline for sure, versus going out third party.
Yeah. So how do you have these economies of scale available to you in these different markets? Because they're not close. So that's impressive that you got these going.
I wish it would be portfolio wide. The economies of scale really trickles in just to the Des Moines market for us. Because given, like I said, right there, we have about 450 units total. So we have a lot within 20 minutes away from each other, which is really convenient. Versus the other markets, it's harder to make that work. Third party can come with its headaches, and obviously owning a construction arm can also come with its own pain points as well. But as you know, it's just hard to find good contractors. I mean, they show up late, they don't show up at all, they're overpriced, they're over their extended time period. So it's just hard to kind of control an asset of which your timeline is so important to be in line with your underwriting. If you say you're going to underwrite, or renovate 4 units a month and you're at 2, like it's a compounding mistake for your business model over those, just say a 2-year hold if you have a bridge debt, for example. So it's just really important to kind of hit those milestones, and third party can sometimes get in the way of that.
Totally, man. I 100% feel that and can empathize with that because I've been in that situation. And yeah, time is money, absolutely, especially with the type of financing you place. Also, when you report back to your investors, you want to be able to be demonstrating milestones being hit, progress, because even though these folks, you're leading the charge and they necessarily as limited partners don't have a say, you need to keep morale high because like you said, you're constantly raising so that you don't want to have any unhappy customers or any reason to cast any sort of doubt or missing a distribution or something like that. You've got to maintain the positive attitude. Obviously, I'm sure you're very transparent still, but that third party can make or break you. And because if you don't even know, if you don't have boots on the ground and your third party management is dropping the ball, contractors aren't showing up, that's really difficult and stressful. I've had properties in other markets and it's terrifying, man, to check in like a week or 2 later or you go down there expecting to see 2 or 3 units done and lease signed, and then it's like tumbleweeds. You're like, what the fuck is going on down here, right?
Yeah. And that happens, right? And you just got to grab the bull by the horns, like you said, get in the plane and get down there, especially if you're not in that market. That for us, I mean, we're there a lot more than we should, but we kind of enjoy being more hands-on, and I think it helps us out with our third, again, we're not too much third party anymore, but like it just helps us out because they know we're going to come check in. Like there's no BS, there's no bullshit. Like the big guys are going to come in town eventually, so we can't really get away with anything, you know what I mean? So it's important.
That's awesome. I could see as someone who would invest in syndications, you're the kind of partner that I would want to put my money with because so many people are so checked out, man. It's like you got to have physical boots on the ground or
for
people
sure
on your team. Just because if you're not tending to it, man, it's like a flock. You're the shepherd. So
a lot of people think it's a set it forget it. It's to hand the keys to the PM. Let's just get the PM statements at the end of the month and kind of see where we're at. But I mean, if you're looking at the end of the month, like you're already 4 weeks behind. Like you need to be able to kind of see what's going wrong on a weekly basis, look at your actuals versus budgets, like within the P&L and say like, well, if we're already at 90% of our expenses, 2 weeks in, like what's going on? Because we're obviously going to exceed that. So just really being in the numbers. And, I know this will probably be a point in this conversation where we're going to talk about kind of like building out a team, but you need to know what you're good at and hire out the rest. I mean, for me, the numbers is not my strong suit. My partner kind of deals with all the back end CFO hat, but he knows everything to the penny, right? And I'm more boots on the ground on the operations side. So find out kind of like the best fit for your team, because you don't want to be kind of caught with your pants down, especially when it's too late.
Yep, I feel that. It's really cool that you mentioned, your partner, you guys bring different things to the table. It's definitely really important when choosing partners to invest with or to build something with, to have, you don't want a duplicate of yourself. You need someone who can be on the other end of the spectrum, seeing the holes in the way you look at it, and vice versa, offering more diversity to the partnership. So I think that's important.
For sure.
And I think that you guys must just love the forced equity for like those NOI things that you can tap, like utilities, because then it's not as stressful. You're not physically waiting on vendors. That's more of like a back end operation where it's just analysis, figuring out how to cut costs or bundle and save. And so I think that's awesome. It's really cool. And the way that you said how much real value you can actually create is insane, right? Just raising cap points or compressing a point here and there just by raising the NOI is just, that's the beauty of this industry, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me this. So if someone is, like me, or a real estate investor, has a healthy portfolio but wants to take it to the next level and start, raising capital, identifying bigger deals, putting them together, what are the, this is a blueprint model show. So what are some of the things that you would tell someone like myself who wants to take those next couple steps, fostering relationships, identifying properties? How do you pull it all together?
Yeah. It kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said about partnerships. I mean, you got to find out what you love to do, what gives you energy, and do what you do best, and then hire the rest, right? So like if you like to do the events and shaking hands and going out to dinners and this and that, like that's then push on that, because the last thing you want to do is focus on things that drain you. For me, what works for me is I'd go out, do dinners, I take people out, I advertise on social media, pretty, I would say pretty like straightforward there. I would like to kind of get a little more advanced and going into like hiring a social media company that kind of create these videos for me that you see a lot of these guys on Instagram doing. But a big one is just kind of really casting a wide net at the beginning as you get started to kind of see what works well and what you enjoy, and then kind of honing in on it. Because you don't want to have too much out there that where you're just like giving everything kind of 80% of your time, when you can maybe just find like 2 or 3 main pillars of that you enjoy doing to try to bring in capital. We are also in a good position where we do have a lot of repeat investors, which is kind of nice. And I would say the main difference from some feedback that I've gotten from other LPs is that we're not only transparent, but we continue to update our investors throughout the process of the deal. A lot of people out there, they're really, really, they're really available on the phone when they're looking for money, hunting for money. They close the deal, and then it's one investor update a quarter, and it's maybe a paragraph or two, maybe with a financial update. Although I do think that's good on a personal level. Like I've invested in LP deals and I don't want to have 4 updates a year on my investment. Supposedly they're renovating X amount of units. I want to see what that level of renovation looks like. They're injecting $1 million on exterior. Like, what does that look like? So for us, we are very, very open in our communication with our investors. So like we'll throw videos of us walking through a renovated unit or walking through a mid-renovated unit and kind of show them what it looks like between A to B, where our costs are, where we at in the budget, timeline, etc. And again, show that on social media. A lot of people, our investors, follow us, so like they'll always comment back. It looks great. Excited to see the project. And then they feel like they're more actively engaged in the investment versus like a passive investment. Obviously they're still a passive investor, but they feel like they're watching the HGTV show and they feel like they're in the weeds. And I show the ugly. I mean, we had to meet our lender on site a couple trips ago in Des Moines. And I mean, you probably see it in the workforce housing. They go from their apartment with their bag of trash. They go down the stairs with their bag of trash. They make it all the way to the trash can, but they just leave it right next to the dumpster, which I think is hilarious. And then, of course, raccoons and whatnot get in there. And, I posted a video of me of literally picking up trash all around the property. I mean, like, this is not just a couple napkins here and there, like really, really disgusting stuff. And I'm there in my button down and my nice shoes and I'm getting stuff done, right? And for the end consumer and the investor, they're like, wow, this guy's like, he's in it. And like, he's not just showing us the good, he's showing us the bad. So transparency is huge. There's obviously a couple other alternatives out there, like you can go into like some companies that will vet your firm and maybe help you raise money as well. We haven't gone that route, but there's a lot of ways to do it. At the end of the day, for us, what works best is just be open with the investors, give, better communication like we do at least once a month for our newer deals. Obviously, at some point, maybe a couple of years down the road, we'll go into like bi-monthly just because there's not as many updates to share. But that's been our big success with a lot of our LPs, is just be communicative, show what's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they feel like they're right alongside with you versus just cutting a check and then hoping in 5 years it doubles.
Yeah, that's so important, man. And because this is a lot of money to folks, and it's the fact that you guys don't take it lightly speaks a lot about you guys and your integrity and the way that you do it. That way, there is no surprises, because there's nothing more terrifying than writing a check and being like, geez, I wonder where my $100,000 went. I wonder if Teddy's out there, on the Caribbean having margaritas. Yeah. But when you see down there, you're dumpster diving, trying to keep the place clean.
Yeah, complete opposite of the Caribbean's dumpster diving in Des Moines, Iowa in the middle of the winter. Believe me.
Yeah, you're earning it, dude, which is awesome. It's crazy too. Trash is one of the biggest friggin' problems that I've ever experienced in our properties. We've had more trouble finding folks because it's not like a trade. There's trash companies that will go and pick up their receptacles. Mm-hmm. Getting people in multifamily properties to just physically get it in the can is like a phenomenon I could never understand. Still can't wrap my head around it. Just what goes through a human's brain when they do that, because I've seen it on some of our security cameras over time. It's like, what am I missing here? Is it?
You're already there. Just put it in. Yeah, like, I don't get it.
Come on, buddy. You need like a speaker there. You can be like, come on, buddy. I know you can do it.
You can do it. Yeah. And it's tough, because it's what happens is it's contagious. One person sees it done not right, then everyone, especially in the workforce housing, then everyone just treats the property in that manner. And it's tough for us because we do try to not only just create that value with renovations and this and that on the outside, exterior work, but it's also like the living experience as well. If we have someone that's leaving their trash bags outside, like we're dinging them with notifications, and we're making sure that they're getting fees for that, because we want to make sure they stop doing it. The last thing someone wants to do is walk out of their unit and the hallway smells like trash, right? So we do our part there, and it's contagious. And when it works, you notice that things do change for the better. But it just takes that one person to kind of create that bacteria of bad habits, and it does spread. And that affects the tenants you currently have there for renewals, which is really important. Obviously, client retention is one of the best ways you can save money, because unit turns and vacancy is going to be your biggest expense. And then in addition to that, leasing. Someone walks up on the property to take a tour of the unit and there's trash all over the place. Like, you lost them right then and there. So, and each lead can be very expensive if you're spending a lot of money on marketing spend. So it's really important to keep everything clean.
Something so simple. It's great that you guys, the devil's in the details. So the fact that you guys pay such attention to that, and people think trash, but man, trash can be the demise of a really solid investment. Something, just death by 1,000 paper cuts. So
for sure.
That's awesome, dude. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You guys are you in a growth mode now? You said you're always raising. So are you, have some stuff under contract or on your horizon? What are your goals for 2025? And so we can hold you accountable when we talk next and see if you've, I'm confident you will hit them, but what are you aiming at right now?
Yeah. Our goal 2025 is to break into 1,000 units total. Under management. So that's our big stretch goal for this year, which we're excited about. We currently have about just shy of 200 units in 2 different deals under contract for Q1. Lending's been taking a little bit longer, so we had to extend a couple of those, which is totally fine because raising right after the holidays sucks anyway. So it's actually benefited us. But yeah, we're looking to continue to grow in the markets that we're in, primarily in the Midwest. And then one goal for us is to tap into one new sister market. So maybe Kansas City or Omaha, Nebraska, et cetera. Like-kind market and easier to asset manage given the location.
That's really smart. That helps you, like you said, get that economies of scale going too, which is huge. So let me ask you this question, your philosophy, because there's 2 different schools of thought on this. And I think I know your answer based on, basically you said the old phrase, ABC, always be closing, always be raising. Are you get the deal and the money will come, or get the money and then go find the deal? Because I know sometimes if you got all these people on the sidelines and all this money, but you got no deal, that's a delicate dance too, because, you don't want to waste time. But then if you go out and find a deal and then you're out there trying to scrape, anything you can, shake every tree to get it closed and possibly missing out, losing deposits, that's also not a good place to be. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on my answer will depend on where you are within your firm, right? I mean, if you are literally putting zero money into the deal and you're raising 100% of it, I would say you want to have some things softly committed before obviously taking the plunge. However, one of my favorite quotes to go by is, you're going to have to build a plane while you're already flying. You got to figure that shit out along the way, right? You're never going to be ready 100%. So I would say I'm personally, for me, I'm more on the latter, like is find the deal and the money will come. That being said, I mean, I am in a good position where if I need to gap fund myself a little bit, I likely can do that. Obviously, it depends on the check size, but that's kind of the way that we have figured it out. And if it is a good deal and you have a good team and you're able to, I mean, know your numbers and know the business plan when you're on these calls with these investors, and you're confident in that, you should be able to get the money. Again, it depends on where we are, especially like with look at the last 24 months with capital raising. We had good and bad months, right after each other. So now, politically speaking, I think it might be a little bit easier. I think people are not going to be sitting on the sidelines as much anymore. But yeah, for me, I would say get the deal and the money will come. However, I have had that, bite me in the ass a couple of times on due diligence fees and whatnot. And, even our last deal, I was looking at the end of a barrel of losing $600,000 of money that, was over leveraged with lines of credits. And that was strictly due to one investor pulling out $2.5 million the day of closing. So again, you need to make sure that you can chew it if you need to. That specific deal was definitely one of our biggest acquisitions. And, we were in a great spot and things just kind of fell apart on closing day, which is definitely, a little bit more uncommon, but, shit happens. So you got to be prepared for it.
Yeah, dude, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where you get your kind of grit, because your investors, they can't see you shake when something like that happens. You just, you got to just push through it, clean yourself up, and then get on to the next one, because that could cripple or disable someone in your position pretty quickly. So it's cool.
Yeah.
How often, when you guys are raising money, let's say if you're taking down like a $5 million project, how much of that will you guys put in on your own?
Right now, looking back at our last 3 years of syndication, for average about 10 to 15% is GP capitals invest in the deal.
Okay. And then then you're raising another 10 to 15% to match that, and then leverage the rest?
So 10-15% of the entire equity stack on the down payment, let's just call it. Yeah. Okay. So not gotcha. 10-15% of, let's just call it 25% down payment. Yeah. So 10 to 15% of the total capital needed to close.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Is that pretty common in your experience?
Not really in the syndication model. A lot of these guys, they raise up about 100% of the money. It is most common in the syndication model. That being said, for the way that we look at it is we want to have our money alongside with our investors, right? Show that we have skin in the game. A, and then, B, yes, the acquisition fees can be nice. The asset management fees can be nice. But like one guy that I've been, leaning on for a lot of experience that's way, way above where I am today is, he's like, those fees just keep the lights on. Where you make your true wealth is when you invest in your own deals. So ever since he told me that, I mean, I've been heavily invested in our own deals because, I mean, again, I got to be alongside with our investors. And if I'm going to bet on anyone, I'm going to bet on myself.
Yeah, dude, 1,000%. That's awesome to hear you say that too, because that's the truth. Otherwise, you're just running a fund instead of being a real estate investor. Those are two different roles, two different jobs. Like, you got to put your money where your mouth is. I would never invest along anybody who didn't have their own money in the game, because then they're just going out. And I've seen some of these structures and some of these deals where they have these big, beautiful Class A things, and these guys are living off the asset management. They're living off the acquisition fees, the disposal fees. And they don't care how the thing performs, because they're getting, and they just keep, they're good at raising, and they just keep buying and buying, selling the dream. So like you said, the real wealth is made at the end of the day when the disposal does happen, or if you get something to really perform and you've got those steady distributions, man, that's why we're in it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, it comes down to the numbers. I mean, if you want to do let's just say you do a deal a quarter and you make, 40, 50 grand, each acquisition fee, you make 200 grand a year. Some people might think that's great. I mean, I don't blame them. 200 grand a year is not bad, but you have to keep doing deals to make that $200,000 a year. The AM fees are pretty marginal in my opinion. So like for you, again, to generate that wealth, you take an exit in 4 or 5 years, let's say you invested 200 grand, now you got 400 grand to work with, plus the 200 grand that you made in addition to that with acquisition fees. And then you can start to compound that money into bigger and bigger deals. So that's the way that I look at it personally. So I typically like to invest in our own deals.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm good. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So we obviously both just got back from Utah, from an amazing winter adventure and mastermind. We were chatting offline how cool of an experience it was with our GoBundance community. So tell us, first of all, I'm curious how long you've been a member of GoBundance, your thoughts on it, and then your philosophy on the importance of being a member of a tribe or community or hiring a coach, and if you have a coach now outside of GoBundance.
Yeah. I'm newer to GoBundance. I've known them for years, just being on, listening to podcasts and books. It's been very common within the real estate world and in the real estate industry specifically. But I probably joined maybe September, I want to say. So definitely newer to that. I mean, it's super important. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you are an average of the 5 people you hang around the most, right? So if you're hanging around people that are sleeping in, drinking, and this and that, and that's what you want to be, great. Fine. If you want to be different, you're still hanging around those people, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to do that, to commit to like your own accountability. The GoBundance crew specifically, I mean, what I enjoy about it is I've always been part of mindset groups or masterminds where it's strictly professional, which I thought was the most important thing. Looking back now at many failed relationships in the past, it's a lot more than that, right? So what I enjoy with GoBundance is it's like almost mostly personal with a little hint of professional, right? And the guys there are all, I mean, you saw them. Some of these guys there are making money that I couldn't even imagine, and they're super humble, and they're sitting right next to the table, and you would never known, right? And they're just all about giving back and, really trying to make everything back home in your personal life, at a 10. And while doing that, having fun. I mean, these guys, everyone's going skiing, or they went snowmobiling, they went on the heli tour. So like, and obviously you can tell in the beginning of the podcast, like, I'm an adrenaline junkie. So like, to surround yourself with these like-minded people that not only are going to make you want to be where they are because they're super successful, they're also just this amazing group that's going to keep you accountable to where you want to be. That's the biggest thing for me.
Accountability. I second that totally. It's like, in this group, I'm still fairly new to it too. It's, but just to see these guys, I think they said, the net worth of the group we were with over $2 billion in the room, but like to kind of second what you said, some of their biggest accomplishments though are their family or their adventures or the thing. And we were doing our one sheet exercise, and one of the guys in my group, he's giving away more a year than I'm making, and I'm just like, that's the goal, to surround yourself with people like that.
Yeah.
Is how you get elevated, because I think, when you really want to start receiving, the first thing you need to do is really start giving. Yeah. And that's something I'm kind of committed to this year, is really doing a lot more of that, because that's one thing, like you said initially, success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. And all these guys, man, are very generous, and they're incredibly wealthy, but money was not really the topic. It's assumed everyone's doing well, but money is not the topic of conversation as much. Which I think is just so cool, man. So I think we kind of see eye on that.
Yeah, no, it was powerful. I mean, again, just walking out of the room, being in the room, like, everyone's just energies, testosterone is through the roof just with these group of guys. So I'm excited. I mean, my plan this weekend is to sit down with my notes that I took throughout the week after just catching up at work and just kind of combing through, because I mean, some of these guys, being vulnerable and opening up and like sharing kind of some things that you want to, that you need to help on or work on yourself. Like, some of these guys, they've been there, they've done it, they're currently doing it. It's like, on paper they might look great, but everyone's got their own, skeletons in the closet. So it's nice to kind of have some guys like that. Again, super uber net worth through the roof, but just incredible guys that are willing to help you out.
Yeah, and I think that just seconds like the point that having a community of people you can speak to, surrounding yourself with people that have been where you want to go, whatever industry you're in, whatever business you're in, whether it's just a faith journey or a financial journey or whatever, losing weight, just getting in around people that are doing it, and that accountability is huge. And so I'm very stoked that we're both part of this group. Whatever group you're a part of, I think if you're in a group, you're on the right track. So tell me, for folks that want to learn more about you and kind of what you like to listen to, what you're reading, what you're following, what are a couple 3 favorite books or podcasts that you like to recommend to folks?
Yeah, I'd start off with books. I mean, definitely a lot of business, self-help books is kind of my thing. I really haven't dove too much in like fiction, but The Slight Edge is one of my favorites. It just talks about making sure that every single day you just keep, do the same thing and keep yourself in rhythm, because you make one little mistake every day over a long period of time, like, it could take you off course, right? So that's a big one for me. I mean, pivotal in lifetime, very similar to a lot of people, is just Rich Dad Poor Dad. Incredible book that can just really change your mindset on just life and finances as a whole. And if I have to choose one more, I guess this is probably going to be good for people that are, I guess, more on a true business ownership lens, is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Dude, great. Dan is the fucking man, right? I
Yeah.
love that guy.
Yeah, really incredible because like if you're like me, which everyone probably listening to this podcast is because they're all entrepreneurs, is you want to get shit done right, you do it yourself, right? You need to grab the bull by the horns. You need to be the one that's doing all the work. But if you really want to get to where you want to be, like you need to hire right. You need to let them make their mistakes. Your hires make your mistakes. Let them learn from themselves so they can eventually be a kick-ass employee. That kind of really shook my business because again, I just want to be in all wearing all the hats and in all the rooms where realistically I need to focus on my 3 most important pillars of the business and I need to hire out the rest. That's the only way we're gonna get to 1,000 units and make sure that nothing all tumbles down.
Yeah, dude. Do you remember? There's the old quote that someone mentioned it this past week, which if you want to go far, go fast.
Yeah.
Go alone. If you want to go far, go with the team. And then someone said something like a third version of that.
If you want to go sex, join a tribe or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That was it. It. So
it's funny. I wrote that quote down. That last part, I drew a line because I was gonna try to figure out what it was.
Yeah, me too. So, I've got my journal behind me, but I won't. I won't. In the sake of time, I won't get it out now. But and what do you listen to podcasts or anything that you like in that space?
I'm kind of all over the place. In bigger pockets, kind of come and goes depending on where it is. Rich Chalmers is a good podcast as well. He invests a lot in boutique hotels, but he's got a lot of really good guys on there.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then, I just kind of listen to a couple here and there, politically speaking, or just to keep up with the news. No fluff, no BS, just to kind of see what's going on out there.
Yeah, I think it's unique, man. Podcasts they've been around for a while. They've kind of become they're in vogue now, obviously, and there's so much more market share out there.
Yeah.
And the people that are listening to them generally are kind of on a elevated level because they're trying to improve or learn.
For sure.
I think that's really cool. So I'm a big fan of all podcasts for the most part.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. You're raising capital. You guys are out growing your portfolio. Are you doing any coaching or mentoring, or who out there could you be speaking to that you could offer help to? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to actually dabble into that in the near future because I do feel like there's a lot of people that help me get to where I am. I mean, I've hired coaches throughout my whole life. You know what I mean? I've been getting into real estate. I had a mentor there on the residential side that helped me out. Getting into fix and flip world, I hired a mentor. Just kind of like the annual fee, and then he just kind of helped me out grow to where I was. Getting a multifamily like Michael Blank, I joined that platform. So like it is important. I also, it depends on, you need to make sure that you fit with the right person because everyone's different, right? Like for me, I did not necessarily need someone to push me and be accountable to do, let's just say, underwrite 10 deals a week or whatever, because I'm wired to do that. Some people might need that push or that hand holding. So I just recommend, like, if you are going to look for a coach, just make sure it kind of, their strengths will help your weaknesses. The last thing you want to do is just like hire a coach that's 15 grand for the year on, let's just say, multifamily, and they're just going to push you to do what you're already doing. And so for me, it was really important to kind of find someone that is just going to make sure that what I'm doing is accurate, especially when I'm raising capital. And that's what I did initially, was just have a mentor double check my due diligence and underwriting, et cetera. But it's I would say it's one of the most important things to not only just get into a newer industry, but just to grow as a whole. It's just, no matter what you do, it's important. They're going to push you always harder. They're going to keep you accountable. And a key thing is just tracking your progress as well.
Yeah. You can't, if you're not measuring it, you're never going to know if you get there. So I think
Correct.
You're right. I'm like you, like I'll do the work. I don't need the help with the mindset. It never hurts to have more affirmation, but I need the strategy sometimes. And that's worth paying for. Someone who's already figured it out, knows where to step, where not to step. That's always worth paying for to help compress time.
Yeah, and learn from their mistakes too, right? They probably made their mistakes, right? So like you're paying, let's just say, I don't know what they cost these days, probably 10, 15 grand for a decent one. And you're paying 10, 15 grand to maybe not make $100,000 mistake.
Yep.
Right.
Totally.
So that's super important.
Do you see yourself coaching ever, or just passively, like as people reach out to you, or do you see yourself ever building a program or a platform?
I don't think I'm going to ever do a program or platform, but anytime that there's people that need help, I'm there. I mean, like my office is based out of the Keller Williams office here. We have a lot of newer agents that come in and out of here. I always sit down with them. I take them at the coffee. Like, what can I do to help you out? So like, my door is open. And obviously anyone that's listening on the podcast too. I mean, anything that I can do to help you grow or succeed. Like, again, I had people help me throughout my entire process to get to where I am now. So I'm happy to repay the favor.
That's great, man. Well, I hope all of our listeners will reach out to you. We're going to share your contact info here. I'm going to ask you about that in just a second. But before we wrap up, dude, I have to know pilot. I mean, I'm an aspiring pilot. That might be put on hold now because we have another child coming in July. But dude, tell me about that. Like, how often are you flying? How'd you get into that?
Yeah. I mean, my family does have some pilots there. My uncles, they fly helicopters and they fly fixed wing. My mom actually, when I was younger, flew pilots and gliders. She doesn't anymore. So it was always kind of fun to always thought maybe eventually I'd do it. And about 2 years ago, I decided to take the plunge and go through the whole course. And it's a process, man. And I'm not a good test taker, so you can only imagine how that goes. But it's fun. I mean, it's something that I can enjoy myself, like just to get outside the crazy work day and just be on airplane mode literally and just no one call me or bug me and just that's like my therapy. Go for a little sunset sesh with some friends or even just, I mean, I travel to Des Moines a lot. So I'm going to start traveling out there and just fly myself versus flying through commercial. It's a time sucker from door to door going through commercial. So, eventually like your time is important. So, flying yourself will help there, but it's kind of more of a hobby. I don't think this is going to go anywhere like on a commercial standpoint or go into obviously becoming a commercial airliner, but it's just nice to kind of have your own plane and, fly yourself versus go to the airport and have someone fly you.
Yeah. Well, and also, like you said earlier, buy back your time, man. If you all that time wasted spending a day to get somewhere when you can do it yourself, and then even bringing potential investors or clients with you, man, and get to spend that time doing that type of experience is even more valuable, I think. So yeah, that's rad, dude. Switching over there, what's your favorite wave? Where do you love surfing the most? I'm curious to hear that.
Well, I mean, I bounced around. I was in California for a bit. I lived in Hawaii for about 4 years. So I probably wouldn't give you one good one. I'd probably give you a couple. Mm-hmm. But my mom's side of the family is from Central America, El Salvador. So El Salvador's got some really good surfing. Yes. La Libertad is a really famous area over there, and the water's warm. This black sand beaches. So if I had to choose one, it might be that one because I hate wetsuits.
Yes, me too. I feel you on that.
But my mom actually now lives in South Africa in Cape Town, and the surf out there is absolutely amazing, but the water is absolutely cold. So if I had to choose one, it'd be Central America, El Salvador.
Oh, fucking A. And also, there's not as many, like South Africa, like, isn't it like you go out and there's a real good chance you're not coming back in?
There's sharks float. Yeah, there's people. It's like dolphins over there, and they just surf with sharks around you. It's wild. Yeah.
Oh, I love it, dude. I will say Central America, I'm with you. I second that. The picture behind me is Rancho Santana.
Nice, okay.
Near Popoyo in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
So, man, that's probably one of my favorite spaces down there. And so I was stoked to hear you're a surfer, man. Where did you live in Hawaii?
I was in Oahu for about 4 years. I'm on the South Shore there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that as cool as you would think it would be?
Oh, it was even cooler, man. I mean, massive swells. I was younger at the time, too, so I didn't think getting hurt was even an option. So I was full send mode. Now I probably wouldn't go as crazy as it was. But, yeah, I mean, 8 to 15-foot swells on the regular and, breaking boards left and right, but everyone was having a blast.
Dude, you live the dream.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, listen, I know we're running out of time here. How can we support you? And tell us if there's anything that me or our listeners can do. We want to learn how to connect with you and support you and possibly invest with you. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, they can reach out through Instagram. It's Teddy Mo, M as in Mike, O as in Oscar, .re, like real estate. Okay. They can also just shoot me an email, teddy@highergroundig.com. So HIGHER groundig.com. Just connect. We'd love to just chat with people, like-minded people that want to know what we're doing, in all aspects of the industry. And like I said, if anyone wants to just chat and bounce some ideas off me, if they have any questions, I'm happy to support.
Dude, you're the man. Thank you so much for sharing all your story with us today. Tell us about your adventures in syndication and real estate investing. And my highlights were surfing and airplanes. But I also, real estate, it's all I talk about all day, every day. I love it just as much. But thanks again, man.
Appreciate it, Christian.
Chatting with you.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been the Build Better Blueprint, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
That's it, folks. That's our show. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to our channel so you are up to date with the latest episodes. Feel free to share with your friends and keep up the great work. You are on the right path. See you at the top.